So what's the key to success in life? How would you define success in life? And I would challenge you to think that the way God sees success in life and the way you see it are two different things. His thinking is much higher, much greater than our thinking, our thoughts, our vision, all of that. And one thing that we constantly fight against is our nature. Our human nature, by default, is opposite, opposed to God. In our natural state, we are enemies to God. If we don't make corrections, we are opposed directly to Him. We are enemies to Him. You ever thought about that? That's huge. There's a verse in the Book of Mormon, Mosiah 3:19. For the natural man is an enemy to God and has been from the fall of Adam and will be forever and ever unless he yields to the enticings of the Holy Spirit and off the natural man. We all do this. Unless we fight against it, that is our state. We are cut off from His presence. We will not be in His presence if we die in that state. So, what happens when God gives us good things? There's also another verse in the Book of Mormon I'd like to share with you. This is Mormon. He's reflecting on some of the experiences he's seen and written about in the people's lives, their cycle of righteousness and wickedness. In Helaman 12, 2 and 3, he summarizes, and he says, Yea, and we see at the very time he doth prosper his people, yea, in the increase of their fields and their flocks and their herds, and in gold and in silver, and all manner of precious things of every kind and art, sparing their lives, delivering them out of the hands of their enemies, softening the hearts of their enemies, that they should not declare wars against them, yea, in fine, doing all things for the welfare and happiness of his people. Yea, then is the time that they do harden their hearts and do forget the Lord their God, and do trample under their feet the Holy One. Yea, and this because of their ease and their exceeding great prosperity. And thus we see, except the Lord doth chasten his people with many afflictions, yea, except he doth visit them with death and with terror and with famine and all manner pestilence, they will not remember him. Now, if that wasn't plain enough for you, I know sometimes it's written in Old English, but if we were to adapt these thoughts to today's thinking, there's maybe a more modern version. Yes, we see that when God blesses his people with success, like when their businesses grow, their careers advance, and they earn wealth through jobs, investments, and various valuable opportunities, when he protects their lives and shields them from harm, when he softens the hearts of those around them so they don't become hostile or cause conflict, when he does all this for their well-being and happiness, that's when they forget about God. They become proud and hardened in their hearts, forgetting the Lord by disregarding his counsel and his commandments, because they're comfortable and have great wealth as their new God. And so we see, unless God teaches his people through pain and suffering, unless he sends them illness, fear, economic hardship, personal loss, and death, they don't remember him. We can't handle good things. It's very sad. We can't handle the truth. Um, that's not funny as a reference to a movie, but yeah, so unfortunately, that's the default state that we see ourselves in when he blesses us with good things. So it's almost like he's saying here, why do you only talk to me when you need something? What's the right response to blessings from God and a key to our success? For he knows if he gives you certain things that you want, where you're most likely going to go, which is forgetting him. What is the key to a successful life in his eyes? Of course, it's to work hard and then never forget the Lord in hard times, or especially never forget God in good times. That's the hard part. Of course, we need to remember him when our businesses grow and our careers advance, and you become wealthy through investments in your job, and he protects your life. I've had my life protected many times through stupid things I didn't deserve. He shields us from harm. He softens the hearts of those around us so they don't become hostile. Even in the smallest details, he's in the good in our lives. I remember one time I had a thought, hey, you need to go check the freezer, see if someone unplugged it by accident. And sure enough, yeah, we would have lost hundreds of dollars in food. It's in the smallest things. Did you leave the water running in the backyard? Why do we only remember him in our suffering? Because it's our nature. We're here to overcome those flaws. Why does he have to send difficult things for us to draw close to him? It's almost like if you think about that friend that you've got, it only calls when he wants something or needs something. My car just broke down. Can you give me a ride to the mechanic shop? My kids are sick. Can you help me with food? I lost my job. Do you know anyone that's hiring? My wife is leaving me. Can you listen for hours on end? It's almost like this guy's just a total emotional drain. It's just like every time you see him calling, he's like, oh no, I don't think I want to answer that call. What do they want this time? Is that a friend? Do you avoid their calls? What is a friend? Of course, there's some give and take. I know when my friend needs help, I'm there to call him. What do you need help with? I'm here to listen. And it goes both ways. How are you doing? I know you have a huge family and a huge organization you're responsible for. How can I help you in trying to accomplish what you're trying to do? Have you ever asked God that question? How can I help you today? So a friend calls and checks on you first. How are things going? True friend, I've got your back. If you ever need to talk, call me, to an extent, it goes both ways. And there's some people say, well, why should I give God the credit where, I did all this on my own. Where was God when I was working 80 hours a week and I was eating beans and rice and sleeping in my car because I couldn't afford rent and a business? Where was he during all of this sacrifice? I would tell you, right by your side. And I say, that's absolute crazy talk. For an example, let's say you have a son. Of course, you provide what everyone's expected to provide for a son or daughter. Provide a home, clothes, food, shelter, access to education. Let's say you provide a car to use, pay for the insurance, pay for a cell phone, pay for gas. And while you are providing this perfect shelter from the outside world, a shelter in which he could not handle the full measure of what the world is like at his age. He could not handle taking on all of those responsibilities. You've given him a bubble, a shelter to live in. So while he's living in this sheltered life, your son goes out and gets a job. He's very diligent and is disciplined, and he saves a bunch of money. And say he saves $40,000. And his goal all along, he sacrifices all of his money. He spends hardly any money on himself other than his end goal to buy a house. One day he's able to save $30,000 or $40,000, and he's sitting in his house after buying that house, and he's sitting with some friends talking about, they were asking him, because in this day it's very difficult for someone, a first-time buyer, to buy a home. And they're asking, well, how did you do it? You know, did your parents must have done it for you. When he says, no, they didn't help one bit. I saved every penny of the money that went into this house. They didn't do anything. If I was that parent, I'd be a little bit angry. Is that true? No, of course not. It's not true. He lied. His parents gave him everything. They provided that bubble, shelter from the world, so that he would have a chance of saving money. Without their help, it would have taken twice as long and most likely couldn't have made the goal that he had. And this is a weak analogy. There's some limitations to this analogy because God not only gives us that shelter from chaos, but every breath that I take, every heartbeat that I have is a gift of life from Him. And if I choose to use that life to make money, that's a worthwhile goal to limits. It has limits. But everything comes from Him. If He wasn't sustaining my life, I wouldn't have anything. So I challenge you to never forget the Lord in bad times, but especially when He blesses you, never forget Him in the good times. He is the source of all good things in our life. Can we be trusted with good things and still remember Him? That is the challenge.